Hey guys, welcome back to the Bargain Collector. I'm Josh the Ramon Thinney. Come on in, kick your feet up, hit the like, and definitely hit the subscribe. Now, as you guys remember, I recently did a Facebook Marketplace haul where I pulled in 7 movies for a total of $5. So that's just a little over 70 cents per film. I have reviewed the first 2, one of them being I Love Hong Kong 2013, the other being Hotel Deluxe. And today I'm going to be reviewing Seven Swords. Have you guys seen this? If you haven't, this is probably one of the most epic wuxia genre films that I have seen. Okay. Now, granted, I haven't seen a ton of them, but of the ones I have seen, this one is on a crazy, crazy, crazy scale. Now, before I hop into my review of this film, I want to remind you guys that we are marching towards our first 100 subscribers. When we hit 100 subscribers, I'm going to do a drawing to basically allow one of you guys, maybe 2, maybe even 3 of you guys, to pick films that I haven't entered into my very limited library, the ones that I've decided not to place in my library. You'll be able to pick from either of those films, and I will get it in the mail to you for free. All you have to do is hit the like and the subscribe and help us get to 100 subscribers. Now, going back to the film Seven Swords. Have you guys seen this film? This one is directed by Hark Soo or Soo Hark. I'm not so sure because I've seen it displayed both ways, but he is the director of Once Upon a Time in China, as well as A Better Tomorrow. That one stars Chow Yun-fat, and it stars Jun Woo actually in an acting role as Inspector Woo. I mean, it got pretty original with that. But yeah, it was directed by Hark Soo. This was supposed to be his return to form for the wuxia genre, and I think he did a pretty admirable job. Now, we'll get into it a little bit more, but first I wanted to actually talk about the specs of this one because it's quite interesting. Yes, it is on a Blu-ray. The film was shot in 35 millimeter film, but in a way where it was actually shot super 35. Now, why am I bringing this up? It's because though it's shot super 35 and though it's shot with spherical lenses, it is notated in the specs that it is an anamorphic release. How might that happen? Well, this is how it happened. So let's go back to what anamorphic normally is. Anamorphic normally is shot in a 4:3 aspect ratio with anamorphic lenses where it squeezes all the information to give it way more vertical and visual information, right? And when it's projected, the projector itself has a D-squeeze on it, which then stretches it out. And so for a lot of people, it looks like it's really, really, really wide. And it is, but it's also really tall. You just don't notice it as much, but all that information gets crammed in. So how is it photographed anamorphic? Well, it can be done one of 2 ways. The front lens element can be anamorphic, or it can be a rear anamorphic attachment. That's how some people do it when they're doing it on a budget, or they want to shoot with a specific lens because it has the look they want, but it's not anamorphic. So there's like a rear element that you could put on there to get rear anamorphic capture. Did they do either of those for this film? No. So this is how they achieved anamorphic on this one. So they shot it normally with spherical lenses. I think they shot with Zeiss Ultra Primes, which are really, really, really sharp, but they also have a very vintage kind of look to them, but they are pretty sharp. And they also shot with the Ingenue HR zooms, right? So they shot with those. And then what they did was when they exported the film, they put it on the Blu-ray disc and they squeezed it to squeeze a lot of information into the lot of visual information onto the transfer. And once it's placed in your Blu-ray player, the Blu-ray players automatically de-squeeze it. So there's a ton of vertical information. It's kind of a fix it in post type of anamorphic solution. I had never even heard of this before until I watched this film. Now, on to what most people thought about the film. Well, this is where it gets kind of interesting. It's negative, mixed, and positive. I would say if you divide it down the middle, one side is going to be the Westerners and the other side, Easterners. Okay. In the West, it was a mixed to negative. A lot of reviewers and a lot of audiences felt that this was going to be the return to form for Harksu, his best wuxia genre film since Once Upon a Time in China, and ultimately they felt that it didn't live up to it. Why didn't it live up to it? Well, for starters, they felt that the story was just too complicated, too unwieldy, and there were just too many characters with too many subplots. A lot of people felt that the second act specifically began to drag, and that 150-minute runtime began to feel like a chore to get through. Now, what did they appreciate? Certainly, number one, the cinematography, which I had already touched on before. It is a sweeping epic in every sense of the word, and you will not be let down by any of the visuals. Many reviewers and audiences in the West felt that the fight choreography was a standout. I'll talk about that a little bit later, my feelings on the fight choreography, but that was a very big selling point for the film to the Western audiences. Now, once we lean into the Eastern audiences and what they felt about it, right off the bat, they were mixed to positive, where a lot of Western audiences felt the runtime was dragging and where they felt many of the characters were not very well developed. They felt the opposite in the Eastern side of the world. They felt the characters were wonderfully realized and fully realized, and that they were all in for the character development. And that time, they wish they had spent more time with the characters and learning about the swordsmen and all this other kind of stuff. So for them, 150 minutes wasn't long enough. Right? What did they feel about the fight choreography? They felt the same. As a matter of fact, they went a little bit further in saying that the design of the swords were incredible, and that each individual sword had its own design and its own usefulness for battle, so that none of the 7 swords were alike. No 2 swords were alike, and no 2 swords had the same purpose, and no 2 swords allowed the swordsmen to fight the same in battle. So it was a lot of intricate detail paid to the swords and how to fight with the swords, how to do battle with the swords. So, and they felt too that this film was an underrated classic. Now you get into what my feelings were of the story. Well, first of all, what I would say is, let me explain the story as it is stated by the logline, which is 7 swordsmen come together to save a village from a diabolical general. Okay? That is a very short, concise way to describe this story. But this story is not short nor concise. Okay. It's a 150-minute epic, historical epic. And it encompasses so much more than just that story. Okay. Yes, there are the seven swordsmen, but let's back out of it just a little bit, because really what you want to say, and this is not, I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything like that, but really what you want to think of the film as is that there is a army called the Firewind Army, and they are being paid by this emperor, and he has this thing called the Imperial Edict, and every village, every person in it is supposed to follow this Imperial Edict. And if he catches wind that people are not, he sends out the Firewind Army, and they are being paid 300 pieces per head that they bring back. And this can be any man, woman, or child. What I'll say about this is that in a lot of movies, they'll have a bunch of people walking around with axes and swords, and they will threaten to remove people's heads and things of that nature. But what you have to get focused on is that in the very first minute of this movie, they are collecting heads. They walk into a town and they are decapitating people right away. And it is not with a sword or an axe. All of the tools that they have, and they have varying tools that they've all had designed. This is, again, leaning back into the production design and how wonderful the production design was in this film. They came up with very creative weapons, and each of these weapons were made for severing limbs. So they come after you to collect your head, but in the process, anything you do to block, whatever you throw out to block, is coming off. Legs, arms, whatever. And it's brutal. It is brutal. They're just savages. And I felt terrified for the people in these villages, because they had no way to really defend themselves, because not only are these people savages who are coming into their town and destroying their population, but it's not like it's a handful of them. It's an army, and they march in and they destroy your village, and they leave your body with tags on it to signify that they were the ones that killed you, to collect the 300 pieces of silver per head. I will agree right off the bat that the cinematography, production design, don't even talk about it. It's amazing. The story, top notch. Okay. Top notch story. Plot points, they land where they need to. What I would have changed is something that I think Eastern and Western audiences can agree on. I would have paid more attention to the seven swordsmen. I would have left the subplots to the seven swordsmen, because there is a lot of story between these seven people and the lives they've lived. And it was more than enough to feel 150 minutes runtime. Okay. More than enough. Now, I'm not knocking the story that they did, because the story was very engaging. The action is very engaging. You feel terrified for anybody. There were some amazing hero moments, but they could have certainly spent more time with our seven swordsmen, helping to realize them, make them more fleshed out. The choreography that everybody praises, maybe it was me, but I felt like either the choreography could have been sharper, or the way that it was captured, it could have been captured better, so that we can get a better idea of what was going on and not use so many cuts. I've always really loved the way, for me, it's one of two ways. It's in terms of my preference. I'm not telling anyone how to direct a movie. I'm just saying, as an audience member, how I like to watch action unfold in a kung fu movie. It's one of two ways. We're going to go back to the way the Shaws did it, right? The Shaw brothers, and you're catching everything in one shot. And then the cut in, the punch in is for emphasis on certain things. Or we go Raid Redemption, right? Where yes, it's a bunch of cuts in there, but it's just brutal and you can see it. Like you can make out what's going on. I feel that here it's sometimes the shots are too close for us to really understand what's going on, or it's in a bad position or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to say it's the fight choreography because there's so many people who know this much better than me, but it just could have been cleaner and it could have had more impact and more oomph, right? If they went one way or the other. They didn't go either way. It just seemed as though you didn't really kind of see what was going on. Anyway, 7 Swords. What did I think about it? We're going to talk about shelf appeal, entertainment value, and rewatchability. What about shelf appeal? Well, as you can see, I mean, there's not much shelf appeal to it, right? There just isn't. I mean, here, what did we have in here? Oh, that's pretty cool for the insert there. But there's not much shelf appeal to it. It's pretty simple. Pretty simple Blu-ray case. But is it entertaining? Come on, man. Yes. This was hella entertaining. I mean, it's 150 minutes, so I won't say I loved every second of it, but I will say that I loved more of it than I liked. I thought it was just an incredible film. Hark Soo or Soo Hark, you did it again. Donnie Yen is amazing. Guy speaks in the film Chinese, but also Korean, and does a perfect Korean accent. Perfect. Donnie Yen, good going, brother. However, is it rewatchable? You see, that's the thing. I had a great time watching this film. I think the fight choreography could have been cooler, because on a film like this, you're going to have the moments of story, right? And the acting where you look back on it and you say, oh, that was amazing, but I can have a good time watching it once. But what will make me go back? And it's usually the fight scenes. That's why you revisit the Raid Redemption. That's why you revisit Once Upon a Time in China. Yes, you have the story and it's great, and you have the incredible filmmaking, but you have to have those battles. You have to have those things that just ooh and ah, and that you feel so strongly connected to. And I don't feel like I got that here. I felt like the brutality was there, right? I felt fear for those villagers because they were being annihilated in the worst ways possible, like just limbs removed left. You just saw legs just being taken out, arms being taken off before the decapitations. It was brutal. And the villain, oh my gosh, he was diabolical. They used the right word for that guy. It was diabolical. But I don't think that makes me want to rewatch the movie. It just doesn't. So I'm not going to say it's rewatchable. So as much as I really want to add this, I keep pointing like I'm at my library is not here. It's back down in the other room, but it's too hot in this California summer to be down there. But yeah, I don't think it's rewatchable for me. So I'll be adding this one to subscriber Saturdays for you guys. But trust me, great film, and it may be rewatchable for you, just not for me. Okay? So that will do it for this video. Thank you guys for showing up and hanging out with me. And until next time, keep finding good films at great prices.